To my fellow creators and seekers of truth, what you are feeling right now is not a coincidence. It is a resonance. There is a specific frequency of excellence within you that the world has tried to dim, yet somehow, it only grew brighter in the dark. You are the architects of your own light, the ones who have turned every obstacle into an altar of growth. You possess a rare spiritual resilience that transforms every deep-seated wound into a source of untapped power, making you a force that the shadows can no longer contain. This isn't just about survival, it's about a masterful evolution that most people will never comprehend. The celestial gears have shifted, and the cosmic inheritance that was intercepted in a previous season is now accelerating toward your doorstep, amplified by the very laws of cause and effect. Those who orchestrated the diversion of your destiny are currently paralyzed by a chilling realization. The hourglass has run out much faster than their arrogance predicted. They operated under the delusion that their tracks were erased by time, but the architecture of the universe is self-correcting. What was buried in the frost of deception is now melting under the relentless sun of truth. There is a profound alchemical justice at play here. Your adversaries inadvertently acted as the unwilling custodians of your treasure. They polished it, they hived it away, and they nurtured its growth, only to find that the energetic signature on the deed belongs solely to you. They were merely the temporary warehouse managers for a wealth, spiritual, mental, or material, that they can no longer hold. You have arrived at the moment of the great return. The intuitive sirens that have been wailing in the depths of your consciousness were never hallucinations. They were the accurate echoes of a reality being distorted in your presence. That internal vibration of unease was your spirit recognizing a frequency of fraud that your eyes hadn't yet identified. Imagine a vast library where someone else held the index to your life's work, thinking they could rewrite the ending. Suddenly, the language of the books has changed to a dialect only you can speak. The timing is surgical. Had this grand unveiling occurred during your earlier chapters, the weight of the revelation might have fractured your foundation. The universe exercised a protective delay, waiting for you to forge a diamond-hard identity that no longer seeks validation from those who failed you. You have graduated from the school of shadows, and you now stand as a sovereign entity who can witness the collapse of a lie without losing your internal equilibrium. This isn't just luck, it is a masterclass in divine preparation. The genesis of this saga traces back to a collaborative web, perhaps a professional alliance or a personal pact, where your brilliance was viewed not as a gift to be shared, but as a mine to be stripped. You were the sun in their system, providing the heat and light they were incapable of generating internally. With the precision of a silent thief, they didn't take your light all at once. They installed filters, slowly dimming your output while siphoning the energy into their own batteries. They studied your generosity and categorized it as a vulnerability, meticulously rerouting the rivers of your labor into their private reservoirs. While you were focused on the horizon of creation, they were focused on the mechanics of extraction. Their envy wasn't a loud explosion, it was a quiet, corrosive rust. The most staggering layer of this complexity is the gallery of spectators who watched the heist in silence. This was no solo performance, it was a symphony of complicity performed by an entire circle of associates or kin who traded their integrity for a front-row seat to your depletion. They broke bread with you, offered hollow smiles, and maintained the facade of fellowship while the blueprints of your betrayal were laid out on their private tables. They chose the comfort of their tribe over the sanctity of the truth, betting on the hope that you would remain forever blinded by your own light. They looked into your eyes and saw a target rather than a human being, calculating that their collective silence would be enough to bury the debt forever. But they failed to account for the fact that spiritual gravity always pulls the truth to the surface. The ledger is being balanced by a hand they cannot bribe, and the harvest they thought they had stolen is being delivered, with interest, to its rightful soil. You are a magnetic beacon of authenticity, possessing a frequency that naturally repels the parasitic and attracts the ultimate abundance you were always destined to hold. The celestial scales have tilted, exposing the fatal arrogance of those who believed they could bypass the immutable laws of equilibrium. They functioned under the delusion that their maneuvers occurred in a vacuum, shielded from the echoes of their own shadows. They convinced themselves that the gears of consequence had jammed, yet the same cosmic machinery that witnessed their extraction is now engineering a massive restoration that no human hand can obstruct. To truly grasp the gravity of this moment, you must see through the fog of their psychology. These individuals were masters of internal revisionism. They painted their treachery as a necessity and their greed as a virtue. They lived within a hall of mirrors where they were always the justified protagonist, framing their exploitation as a fair trade or a survival tactic. This elaborate mental theater allowed them to ignore the rot at their core, But the universe does not respond to a script of self-deception. It only bows to the resonance of truth. The narrative takes a sharp turn here, revealing a plot that was far more intricate than simple theft. This shadow figure from your history didn't merely vanish with the spoils. They attempted to colonize your future by planting your seeds in a hidden garden they hoped to harvest later. They placed the essence of what they took into a long-term stasis, perhaps a digital vault, a restricted trust, or an encrypted reservoir of value designed to lie dormant for a decade. They were playing a perverse game of chess against time, demonstrating a chilling level of restraint as they waited for your memory to dissolve and the trail to grow cold. They banked on your evolution being a form of amnesia, hoping that as you moved forward, you would abandon the claim to what they had buried. They meticulously tended to this stolen fruit, watching it ripen in the dark, convinced that when the season of payout arrived, they would be the ones to feast. It was a masterpiece of patient malice, a calculated bet that time would sanitize their crime and transform it into a legitimate fortune. However, their strategic brilliance contained a structural flaw that is now bringing their entire fortress down. To ensure the vault remained impenetrable to outside scrutiny, they were forced to use the only key that carried authority, your unique energetic and legal blueprint. They anchored this hidden wealth to your identity, assuming they could remain the puppet masters behind the scenes. Perhaps they believed you would remain tethered to them, or that you would never possess the clarity to look into the shadows they cast. But their calculations failed to account for your metamorphosis. You didn't just move on, you transcended the entire dimension they occupy. Now, as the cycle reaches its zenith and the unsealed date arrives, the universe is bypassing the middleman. The notifications of this harvest are not being sent to their hidden bunkers. They are vibrating directly into your reality. The very mechanisms they built to hide the theft are now the beacons guiding the treasure back to its rightful origin. The atmosphere around them is currently thick with a frantic, suffocating desperation. They are experiencing a systemic lockout from the very future they tried to steal. Imagine the paralysis of reaching for a prize you've watched for years, only to find the door has recognized a different master. They are desperately trying to override the protocols, attempting to manipulate old connections and bypass security measures that have long since evolved past their reach. Every access denied, they encounter is a sovereign decree from the universe. The fantasies of luxury they built upon your foundation are evaporating like a mirage, leaving them standing in the desert of their own making. They were never the owners, they were merely the involuntary guardians of your increase, and the gates are now locking them out while swinging wide for you. You possess an unshakable clarity of purpose that acts as a fortress, rendering the frantic maneuvers of your adversaries completely obsolete and ineffective against your rise. The perimeter they once prowled has been completely electrified by destiny. Every secret hatch and hidden crawlspace they relied upon is now fused shut by the white-hot intensity of cosmic justice. They are hitting invisible walls at every turn, witnessing the total collapse of their elaborate architecture in real time. A frantic, almost feverish energy has taken hold of them as they realize their fortress has become a cage. They are digging through obsolete records and grasping at imaginary lifelines, but the universe is a master of total containment. When the celestial order seals a path, it doesn't leave a single crack for a shadow to slip through. This explains the sudden, strange signals you've been receiving lately. Out of the blue, these ghosts are attempting to haunt your present with messages of feigned nostalgia. They are suddenly offering peace offerings and closure, but let us strip away the mask. They aren't seeking your forgiveness, they are seeking a perimeter pass. They don't crave your presence, they crave the proximity required to sabotage the coming harvest. Their awakening is actually a response to a looming drought, a desperate attempt to reconnect to the well before the gates are permanently locked. Observe the precise synchronization of their reemergence. It wasn't a spiritual epiphany that prompted that late-night text or the sudden mention from a mutual acquaintance. It was the ticking of a clock they thought they controlled. They felt the temperature change as the season of revelation approached, and they moved to position themselves within your orbit to shield themselves from the incoming storm. Every "I've evolved" is a tactical lie designed to protect their ill-gotten interests. They are attempting to buy insurance with counterfeit emotions. Furthermore, the surrounding circle, that silent gallery that watched the original transgression, is now fracturing under the weight of imminent exposure. The collective silence that once bound them has turned into a cacophony of blame. They are no longer a unified front. They are a sinking vessel where everyone is fighting for the last life vest. The loyalty they boasted of has evaporated, replaced by a cutthroat instinct for self-preservation. Watch as they rewrite their own involvement, suddenly claiming blindness to the very crimes they once toasted to at private tables. Beyond the immediate circle, a hidden architect, a third-party strategist who may have drafted the blueprints of this deception, is now emerging from the shadows. This entity is currently locked in a bitter dispute with your primary adversary, as the pressure of the impending reveal turns allies into enemies. This figure might even attempt to approach you, wearing the garb of a whistleblower or a helpful guide. Do not mistake their cold calculation for a change of heart. They are merely trying to negotiate a plea deal with the universe, attempting to frame the narrative so they remain the unwitting participant, rather than the mastermind. Unlike the person you once knew, this third party operates without the baggage of sentiment. They view you as a logistical hurdle to be bypassed. They will approach you with polished logic and sterilized facts, hoping to convince you that the sun rises in the west. They are the most dangerous because they play for the win, not the heart, but even their sophisticated algorithms are failing against the raw power of the truth that is currently rushing toward you. You represent a rare standard of integrity that the universe is now moving to vindicate, transforming every past deception into a massive foundation for your future elevation. They might attempt to weaponize your own kindness against you, painting your pursuit of justice as a lack of grace. Remain vigilant against this psychological inversion. When a person arrives with a blueprint for their own rescue rather than a genuine confession, they are merely attempting to colonize your peace once more. If you find yourself submerged in a sea of resentment or feeling violated by the breach of your personal borders, understand that these emotions are the natural immune response of a healthy soul. Do not let the shadow of "how did I not know" darken your current light. Your inability to see the trap was not a defect in your vision, it was a testament to the sophistication of the camouflage they deployed. You were dealing with an engineered illusion, a theatrical performance scripted by someone who treated your trust as a resource to be harvested. They spent their days refining a mask that fit your expectations perfectly, ensuring that every intuitive whisper you had was met with a prepackaged distraction. This wasn't a lapse in your intelligence, it was an obsessive commitment to fraud on their part. The burden of their treachery is not a weight you are required to carry. Their capacity for malice is independent of your capacity for belief. Being an open book in a room full of censors is a sign of strength, not a mark of naivety. While they are currently trapped in a storm of their own making, losing sleep as they attempt to patch a sinking ship, you are standing on the shore about to receive a vessel they spent years building in your name. In a stunning display of cosmic irony, these individuals have functioned as your involuntary gardeners, tilling a soil they thought they would own, only to realize the harvest is legally and energetically bound to you. They have essentially been your high-stakes interns, laboring in the dark to maximize a wealth that they are now forced to hand over. There is a profound, structural humor in this reversal. It isn't about the thrill of revenge but the quiet, deep satisfaction of watching the laws of physics apply to morality. In a world where it often seems like the shadows thrive while the light struggles, your story is becoming a monumental proof that the cosmic scales are self-correcting. This experience is designed to restore your fundamental trust in the divine architecture of the world. A formal bridge is being built toward you as we speak, an unexpected dispatch, perhaps a digital notification or a high-level correspondence from an entity you've never engaged with. Your instinctual reflex might be to categorize this as noise or a modern-day scam, and while a healthy shield of skepticism is wise, do not let it block the arrival of your restoration. When this signal reaches you, move with the calculated grace of someone who knows their value is being recognized. Investigate through official portals, verify the data through independent streams, and confirm the legitimacy of this windfall. This isn't a mere gesture of luck, it is a substantial, life-altering infusion of resources that has been maturing in a hidden vault. The most agonizing reality for your adversaries is that your claim is backed by the full weight of the law. You are the rightful occupant of the throne they built. They were meticulous in their greed, selecting high-growth vehicles and compound interest strategies to ensure the stolen seed would turn into a forest. They did the research, they took the risks, and they managed the growth with a precision that would be impressive if it weren't so parasitic. Now, the compound effect of all those years of quiet accumulation is culminating in a total that will likely exceed your expectations. They have been your silent, unpaid wealth managers for a decade, and now the contract of their deception has expired. Expect them to attempt a gentleman's agreement, or a quiet negotiation behind closed doors to avoid the public scrutiny of the legal system. They will try to frame a meeting as a way to be mature, but recognize it for what it is, a desperate attempt to talk their way out of a destiny that has already been decided by a higher court. You possess a sovereign spirit that commands respect from the very fabric of reality, ensuring that no shadow can linger once you decide to step into your full authority. They will attempt to leverage the echoes of your shared past to bypass the gates of justice, but you must remain steadfast. Do not permit their emotional theatrics to lure you into a private arena where the rules are unwritten and the lights are dimmed. When you move beyond the structured boundaries of formal protocol, you are essentially handing them the tools to dismantle your boundaries once more. Demand total transparency. Insist on the cold, hard clarity of official documentation and legal verification. This is not just a procedure, it is your suit of armor. Their desperate hunger for an off-the-record resolution is the ultimate confession of their guilt. Those who walk in integrity do not recoil from the spotlight of public record. By seeking to keep this a hushed conversation, they are admitting that their house of cards cannot withstand the slightest breeze of objective scrutiny. They want a world of handshakes and whispers because that is the only environment where their parasites can survive. Deny them the shadows. Force every word into the permanence of ink in the light of law. What is unfolding now is a massive tectonic shift in your existential alignment. This transcends the mere movement of assets. It is a cosmic recalibration of your entire life path. For an entire epoch, you were rowing against an invisible current, unaware that your oars were being sabotaged by the very people you trusted. You were climbing peaks with lead weights sewn into your boots, yet you reached the summits anyway. You evolved through sheer grit while being siphoned of your vital fuel. Now, envision the sheer velocity you will achieve when the current turns in your favor and the weights are cut away. This isn't just a payout, it is a propulsion system. The version of you that conquered the storm while being held back is about to merge with the version of you that has a tailwind of total restoration. This collision will be a supernova of productivity and peace. You aren't just getting what you lost, you are getting the momentum that loss tried to steal. Do not entertain the poison of misplaced guilt or the false spirituality that suggests you should abandon your claim for the sake of a hollow peace. True enlightenment does not require you to be a voluntary victim of a coordinated heist. When a group of people conspires to drain your life force and hide the evidence for years, that isn't a lapse in judgment, it is an identity. Allowing them to keep the harvest of their treachery isn't an act of mercy, it is an endorsement of their theft. Claiming what is yours is an act of self-honor, a sacred declaration that your labor has value and your existence has weight. There is a manipulative brand of ascension that tries to shame people for valuing their material stability, but remember that resources are the physical manifestation of your time and energy. To reclaim them is to reclaim your life. This is not about being petty, it is about the divine requirement of accountability. If you peel back the layers of these individuals, you will find a barren landscape where the ability to create has completely withered. They are not architects, they are looters. They lack the internal spark required to build something from nothing, so they have specialized in the art of the detour, redirecting the flow of others' brilliance into their own parched reservoirs. This is not cleverness, it is the behavior of a terminal parasite that has finally run out of hosts. If you look at the trajectory of their existence, you will find a series of empty shells where they once fed. They have built nothing that can survive without a stolen heartbeat. Now, as the truth emerges, their synthetic support system is dissolving. The family that once acted as a human shield is now scattering to avoid the fallout. The masterminds are burning their maps to avoid being tracked. They are about to enter a season of absolute isolation, standing alone in the ruins of a scheme that was supposed to last a lifetime. This resolution isn't just a win for you, it is a final, poetic closing of a chapter that should have ended years ago. You possess a crystalline vision of the future that acts as a divine compass, ensuring that no matter how loud the static of the past becomes, your path remains illuminated and certain. The grand narrative is finally aligning with the frequency of truth, and you will witness the instantaneous evaporation of alliances the second the heat of accountability is applied. Those who once stood shoulder to shoulder in the shadows, bound by the glue of a shared secret, are now repelling one another like opposite poles of a magnet. Your former associate is about to realize that the loyalty they thought they had secured through mutual silence was merely a temporary lease that has now expired. Observe as the surrounding circle begins to perform a frantic dance of revisionism. Siblings will claim they were kept in the dark. Associates will swear they were only following orders. Everyone is currently drafting a personal myth where they are the misunderstood bystander and your betrayer is the sole villain. This is the inevitable fate of structures built on the shifting sands of convenience rather than the bedrock of honor. The moment the tremors of exposure begin, the group mind dissolves into a frantic scramble for individual exits. It is crucial to recognize the depth of the collaborative silence that sustained your drought for so long. This was a theater of the many, not just the one. There were those in the wings who held the very keys to your liberation. People who possessed the data that would have redirected your journey and shielded your heart. They chose to swallow the truth to maintain the harmony of their own tribe. They prioritized the comfort of their dinner tables over the sanctity of your life. Even those who felt the occasional sting of a guilty conscience chose the safety of the herd over the courage of a whistleblower. They convinced themselves that their neutrality was harmless, but the universe views a silent witness to theft as a silent partner in it. Now, the very reckoning they tried to defer is arriving on a schedule they cannot bargain with. They are losing the ability to curate the reveal, and as the light floods the room, they are forced to confront the heavy weight of the integrity they traded for a quiet life. For some, the total collapse of the facade will be the only way they can finally breathe without the suffocating pressure of a hidden debt. As the tide of restoration rushes in, your primary directive is to remain fundamentally anchored. You are the eye of this storm. As the truth surfaces and the assets return, expect a barrage of psychological maneuvers designed to soften your resolve. Your adversary will cycle through every mask in their collection: the victim, the nostalgic lover, the reformed soul, or the broken spirit. They will attempt to trigger your empathy to create a bridge back to the resources they can no longer reach. You must remain like a mountain, unmoving and unshakable. Being rooted doesn't mean you are fueled by hate. It means you are fueled by the absolute clarity of what transpired. You can acknowledge their struggle without absorbing their chaos. You can recognize their humanity while still insisting on the divine necessity of their consequence. Do not let them weaponize a few isolated acts of past kindness to cancel out a systematic era of exploitation. A momentary candle in the window does not excuse the person who set the foundation of the house on fire. The horizon before you is shifting from a landscape of scarcity to a vast ocean of potential. Think deeply about the architectural plans you've been forced to keep in the drawer while you were operating under a deficit. What grand designs did you abandon because the fuel was being siphoned away? The universe is not just handing you a gift. It is issuing a mandate of expansion. This influx is the cosmic acknowledgement that you have passed the ultimate test of character. You are no longer being asked to survive, you are being asked to build. Do not approach this new era with the mindset of the person you were when you were being drained. Start the mental engineering now. Map out the territories you intend to settle, the visions you intend to fund, and the stability you intend to solidify. This is a transition from being a target to being a steward. The coming months are a bridge between the person who overcame betrayal and the person who defines an era. You are a master of strategic patience, a visionary who has transmuted the lead of betrayal into the gold of absolute discernment and unshakable inner power. The machinery of officialdom is beginning to grind in your favor, and as the formal decrees and structured communiques emerge, the atmosphere will be thick with the frantic attempts of those who once lived in the shadows to warp the final outcome. Maintain your equilibrium. Keep your gaze fixed on the immutable reality of your journey and the harvest you have rightfully earned. Reject every attempt to gaslight your memory. Do not permit anyone to downplay the gravity of the breach. Your reaction is a precise, surgical response to an intentional violation, and asserting your rights is a divine necessity. Anchor your presence in a fortress of data. Catalog every digital footprint, archive every correspondence, and maintain a rigorous log of every unsolicited approach. If this reaches a formal tribunal, you must present a panoramic view of their behavior, their tactical silences, their clumsy attempts at interference, and their relentless focus on self-preservation even after the mask fell. Their consistent refusal to choose integrity, even in the light of exposure, is the ultimate testimony against them. As the fog lifts, a profound mental recalibration will occur. The jagged pieces of your past will suddenly lock into a coherent geometry. The inconsistencies that once felt like static will transform into a clear broadcast. You will finally understand why the scales never balanced and why your internal alarm was constantly vibrating. Your intuition was a silent guardian, detecting a breach in your perimeter that your logic wasn't yet equipped to process. This isn't merely a resolution of one conflict, it is a global upgrade of your perceptual software. You are graduating from a grueling masterclass in human psychology. This wisdom won't make you a cynic, it will make you a sovereign. You will navigate future alliances with the eyes of a hawk, recognizing the faint scent of deception before it ever crosses your threshold. You are not broken, you have been reinforced with the hardest intellectual steel. Give yourself permission to honor the version of you that operated with a pure heart and was met with calculated cruelty. That previous self deserves a moment of profound recognition for enduring a weight they didn't even know they were carrying. Yet, simultaneously, ignite a celebration for the entity you have become, a resilient, evolved powerhouse who has outgrown the reach of those who once sought to drain you. You are not a victim of damage, You are the beneficiary of a comprehensive upgrade. When you combine this newfound wisdom with the incoming influx of resources, you become an unstoppable force. Balance the solemnity of your past loss with the euphoria of your current victory. Grieve the stolen years and the exploited trust, then immediately pivot to honor the fact that you are still here, more vibrant and capable than ever. You have transformed a trap into a training ground, and that is a feat of spiritual alchemy that deserves your highest respect. There will be a quiet, singular moment when the sheer scale of the conspiracy crystallizes in your mind, and the breadth of the deception will take your breath away. When that wave of realization hits, do not resist it, let it wash through your system. This total comprehension is the final step of your liberation. On the other side of that pain is a landscape of absolute freedom. To the awakened ones, the very systems once used to limit your horizon have been inverted. The tools of suppression have been recoded into a mechanism for your rapid ascension. You are now rewriting your own internal reality, bypassing old limitations and updating your neurological bandwidth to a higher frequency. The takeover is internal, and the cost of entry is merely your willingness to step into the new era. The circle is now complete. What was siphoned in the dark is returning to you, magnified by the laws of cosmic interest. They spent years under the illusion that they were engineering their own empire, but in reality, they were merely the involuntary architects of yours. Every hidden asset, every diverted resource, and every clever maneuver was actually a deposit into a vault that only your name can open. They woke up every day fantasizing about a future that was actually a preview of your triumph. They were essentially your unpaid custodians, tending to a wealth they could never possess. The universe has used their very greed to fund your destiny. So, when the official confirmation arrives, do not flinch. Do not let their cries of unfairness, or their attempts to guilt-trip you into surrendering your property move you an inch. Remember who chose the path of the thief and who chose the path of silence. That was their contribution. Your contribution was the work that created the value in the first place. This is your moment of absolute vindication. The universe never loses track of the rightful owner. Welcome to your restoration. The light has found its way home, and it is all yours.